Today, we're cranking the dial all the way back to 1987, a year of big hair, bigger hits, and some seriously headline-making moments. So, grab your leg warmers and your Aquanet, because we're about to take a deep dive into a year that was, like, totally awesome. Welcome to Smells Like Gen X. Can you smell the sarcasm? Beyond the pop culture and sports, 1987 was a year of major global headlines that had a profound impact. From political scandals to a historic arms treaty and a shocking economic event, the news cycle was anything but boring. First and foremost, the Iran-Contra affair dominated the news. The scandal came to light after a Lebanese magazine reported that the U.S. had been secretly selling arms to Iran, a country under an arms embargo, in exchange for the release of American hostages held in Lebanon. Even more shocking was the revelation that some of the profits from these arms sales were secretly funneled to the Contras, a rebel group fighting the Sandinista government in Nicaragua, which was a direct violation of a congressional ban. Yeah, that's kind of tough to follow, isn't it? Televised hearings captured the nation's attention, with key figures like Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North becoming a household name. But it was in June of 1987 that President Reagan delivered what would become one of the most memorable and consequential speeches of his presidency. Standing in front of the Brandenburg Gate in West Berlin, just a few hundred yards from the infamous Berlin Wall, he addressed the Soviet Union directly and called for a new era of freedom and openness. Defying the advice of some of his own staff, who feared the words would be a little too provocative, Reagan delivered a challenge that would echo around the world.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
That speech was a turning point. It set the stage for a major step toward de-escalation called the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Also known as the INF Treaty. It was signed by Reagan and Gorbachev in December, and this landmark agreement was the first time the two superpowers had agreed to eliminate an entire class of nuclear weapons. So we go from nuclear Armageddon to financial Armageddon. It was the day the financial world stood still. October 19th, 1987, the stock market experienced Black Monday.
Good evening, everyone. Well, the law of gravity hit Wall Street today, and financial markets around the world for that matter, as stock prices plunged even more than they did on Black Tuesday of 1929. When the dust settled, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had lost more than 508 points on volume of 604 million shares. That's nearly double the previous record.
The global crash sent shockwaves through economies worldwide and sparked fears of a new Great Depression. While the market did eventually recover, it was a harsh reminder of the interconnectedness of the global financial system. Speaking of money, what did things cost back in 1987? Let's start with the big stuff. The average price of a new car, around $10,000, with many popular models like a Ford Mustang going for a little over $12,000. And if you're looking to buy a house, the median home price was a little over $104,000. Now let's talk about everyday life in 1987. Filling up the gas tank was a lot less painful. The average price for a gallon of gas hovered around 95 cents, which would make any driver today, including myself, shed a tear of nostalgia. What about grocery shopping? Well, a bottle of Coke was about 50 cents, loaf of bread, a little less than $1, and a dozen eggs would run you about 86 cents. Even technology was a different beast. A brand new state-of-the-art VCR, we're talking cutting-edge piece of home entertainment, could be bought for around $275. And if you wanted to watch your tapes on a brand new colored TV, the giant 19-inch Zenith would set you back around $216. So while the money in our pockets may have been different, the feeling of making a paycheck last was universal. Looking back at the cost of living in 1987 is a perfect snapshot of a different economic reality, one that feels both very far away and yet strangely familiar.
Let's go to the mall, everybody!
Of course, when you think of economy, finance, and spending money, you got to think of the mall. And when we think of the mall, we think of fashion. The most iconic silhouette of the year was the power suit. Inspired by the TV show Dynasty and the rise of women in the corporate world, these suits featured oversized shoulder pads, like seriously oversized shoulder pads, that created a strong, commanding look. These weren't just for the office. Designers like Giorgio Armani and Donna Karan brought them to the forefront of high fashion. This look was all about looking powerful and in control. In the casual wear department, denim was king. But it wasn't just your standard pair of jeans. It was all about distressed denim. We're talking acid wash, stone wash finishes. Brands like Guess and Jordache were staples in every mall. And denim jackets were often decorated with pins and patches. It was a look that said, "I'm cool," without even trying. And let's not forget the accessories. The motto was, the bigger, the better. Jumbo earrings, stacked bangles, and multiple layered necklaces were a must-have. And what outfit would be complete without a big, teased hairstyle held up by a can of hairspray? The 87 hairstyle was a work of art, defying gravity and often topped with a brightly colored headband. When it came to footwear, the classic white Reebok and Nike sneakers were essential for both fashion and comfort. We go from fashion to fun. If you were a kid in the 80s, you were living the golden age for toys and gadgets. And 1987 was no exception. It was the year where technology started making its way into the hands of kids, and classic toy lines continued their domination. The Cabbage Patch Kids were still a massive hit, and 1987 saw the introduction of the Talking Kids line. These dolls, equipped with a voice chip and sensors, could say one of 100 phrases and even communicate with other dolls. That's a little creepy. At that time, it was considered a mind-blowing thing. But the biggest tech toy of the year was undoubtedly the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yes, I know it was released in 1986, but 1987 was the year it fully exploded into a cultural phenomenon. Everybody wanted a Nintendo, and the iconic Zapper gun and game controller became symbols of a new era of home entertainment. This was the year that games like The Legend of Zelda and Metroid became massive hits, cementing Nintendo's legacy and revitalizing the entire video game industry. And the fun didn't stop at toys. We can't forget about Saturday morning cartoons. For any kid in 1987, Saturday morning was the best time of the week. It was a block full of non-stop entertainment filled with the kind of animated shows that made breakfast taste a whole lot better. A major player in 87 was DuckTales. Woo! Now I know what you're saying. Wait a minute. DuckTales came on in the afternoon. I get it, but we cannot talk about it. It was the adventures of Scrooge McDuck and his three grandnephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. The show's adventurous spirit, witty humor, and the iconic theme song made it an instant classic and a staple of the Disney afternoon block for years to come. Now, back to Saturday mornings. Transformers, G.I. Joe still reigning over the toy and TV worlds. But 1987 also saw the debut of a few new shows. The Care Bears family finally brought the popular stuffed animals to the small screen with stories about friendship and emotions. The show was a gentler, more wholesome alternative to the action-packed cartoons that dominated the airwaves. We go from Saturday morning cartoons to primetime television. And in 1987, we had a launch of shows that would shape the landscape for decades to come. It was the era of the anti-sitcom, the sci-fi comeback, and a groundbreaking spin-off. The fledgling Fox network, still finding its footing, took a big gamble with a show that was a complete departure from the wholesome family sitcoms of the time. Premiering on April 5th, Married with Children introduced America to the Bundy family. They were a completely dysfunctional group that openly loathed each other and offered a biting, cynical view of working-class life. The show's raw humor and willingness to push boundaries made it a cult hit and established Fox as a genuine competitor to the big three networks. Fox also had another hit on their hands, but they just didn't know it yet. It was a segment from The Tracy Ullman Show. You might know him as The Simpsons. But it took a full 2 years until The Simpsons had their own show in 1989. Go! Meanwhile, the sitcom king, The Cosby Show. Ooh. This is awkward. It was still a ratings juggernaut, but it did something totally different. In 1987, it created a spin-off show of its own called A Different World, which premiered on September 24th and took Denise Huxtable, to the fictional Hillman College and opened the door for a powerful and humorous look at the lives of students at a historically black college. The show tackled serious issues with a light touch and became a landmark series in its own right. And if you're a science fiction fan, 1987 was a monumental year for you. Creator Gene Roddenberry revived his beloved franchise for a new era with Star Trek: The Next Generation. Premiering on September 28th, the series introduced a new crew and a new ship to a whole new generation of viewers. It wasn't an instant smash hit, but it built a loyal following and over 7 seasons went on to become one of the most celebrated and influential sci-fi shows of all time. And we can't forget about the family comedy Full House, introducing us to Uncle Jesse and Uncle Joey, and of course, the Olsen twins. The show was so sweet, it gave us cavities. In 1987, television wasn't just about the shows, it was also about the commercials. And man, did we have some good ones that year. One of the most powerful and enduring campaigns of all time is this.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
The ad, created by Partnership for a Drug-Free America, was a stark and simple message that became a cornerstone of anti-drug education for a generation and is still quoted today. And here's a commercial that stands out as a true cultural phenomenon of 1987. It is the debut of Spuds MacKenzie. The fictional bull terrier, billed as the original party animal, first appeared in a Bud Light commercial during the Super Bowl. The premise was simple. Wherever Spuds showed up, the party came to life. The campaign was an instant massive hit. Spuds wasn't just a character, he was a marketing juggernaut, spawning countless products from t-shirts to posters. He became a symbol of 80s pop culture, showing just how much impact a single commercial could have. Fun fact, Spuds MacKenzie was not a boy dog. Spuds MacKenzie was a girl dog. Let's go from the small screen to the big screen. 1987 was a fantastic year for movies. And the highest grossing film of the year, believe it or not, 3 Men and a Baby. Who would have thought that putting Tom Selleck, Steve Guttenberg, and Ted Danson together with a very cute little baby would be the highest grossing film of the year? But it was. Another movie from 87 that just resides in our brain. Fatal Attraction, a movie about the consequences of having an affair with a crazy person who likes to stew bunnies. Other box office hits, Beverly Hills Cop 2, and Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams.
Good morning, Vietnam!
1987 had a bunch of cult classic movies as well. Now I've had the time of my life. Dirty Dancing came out that year. And of course, everyone's favorite quote from that movie.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
RoboCop also came out in 1987. Who can forget The Princess Bride, The Lost Boys, and The Untouchables, all released in 1987. The movies were great, but here's my favorite part of 1987, the music. This was a year of seismic shifts in the music world, with iconic artists releasing career-defining albums and new genres breaking through to the mainstream. Of course, the biggest story was the King of Pop, Michael Jackson. The world had been waiting with bated breath for the follow-up to his record-breaking Thriller album. And when Bad was released, it did not disappoint. It spawned not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. It's a feat that is yet to be broken by a single album. Michael's sound was a little more aggressive, a little more self-assured, and the iconic title track video, directed by Martin Scorsese, yeah, that Martin Scorsese, was like a short film in its own right. But a little-known Irish band named U2 was about to reach superstardom with their 5th studio album, The Joshua Tree. Fueled by hits like With or Without You and I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, an album became a global phenomenon, winning the Grammy Award for Album of the Year. Meanwhile, the debut album from a band out of Los Angeles was about to become a juggernaut. Took some time to catch on, but Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction eventually became the best-selling debut album of all time. And let's not forget some of the other major albums that dropped that year. Whitney Houston's sophomore album, Whitney, made history as the first album by a female artist to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. Def Leppard released Hysteria after years of delays and setbacks, and it was a smash hit. George Michael's solo debut, Faith, and Prince's double album Sign of the Times. 1987 was a defining moment of 80s music, and it did not let down. And there you have it. From news to fashion to everyday life, music, TV, movies, and more, that was the year of 1987. How rad was it? And please, if you love this, like and subscribe for more Smells Like Gen X.